Hey, we're back. I'm Necron, and tonight we're talking about the best thing in the world, 80s Slayer. So tonight we got with us Alex Bouks from Immolation, Goraphobia, and I could probably go on further, right, Alex? Because you played in a bunch of bands, but awesome dude. We got Jeff Tandy, currently in Imprecation and Trenchant. A lot of people know Jeff from his legendary USBM band, of Versafera. And of course, Francisco from Jamming Out All Badass. And pretty much a cool new band that he's going to be coming out with soon, too. We'll talk about a little bit later. So, well, first thing I want to start off with, how did was everybody first introduced to Slayer? We'll start with Alex.
I can remember pretty clearly. It was 1984. I first moved to part of Philly permanently for a while, called Kensington, and I had some friends that I knew from the neighborhood, and there was these brothers that I befriended from them that lived up the street from them. There was these three brothers, and the one guy who was, which is kind of funny, he was like a poser, this dude, but he he had Slayer Show No Mercy. So I remember seeing, the cover with Satan on there or whatever, and just looking at the back photos of the four of them, and they just look sick, and I was just kind of like, wow, this is what I'm looking for. So he played it at his house, and I was just blown away. So right around that time, I think Haunting the Chapel just came out. So that was my first Slayer record that I bought. So I went out and I got Haunting the Chapel, and that's still my favorite Slayer release. It's only 3 songs, but it's just fucking sick as fuck.
Yeah, it's great.
That was like next level, like Show No Mercy on
the leap,
Chapel,
astronomical leap.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning. It's kind of the same kind of thing, the progression that happened, and I mean, that was, that's how I got into Slayer. And, first time I saw them, I didn't get to see them, unfortunately, on Hell Awaits tour, but I saw them on Rain and Blood. And I was kind of disappointed because I saw them with, it was Wasp and Raven. I think it was Raven and Open Up, Slayer and Wasp. And they didn't have Dave. It was fucking Tony Scaglione.
Same problem when they came to my town.
But I got my nose busted at the show, and
the Slayer show.
It was. It was still phenomenal. But the fast forward a year later, I saw them on the South of Heaven tours with Motorhead and Overkill, I think, opening. And this time Slayer was the headliner. They had the whole like church kind of thing. I think they had one. And the set list was just fucking phenomenal. Just the way everything worked too, like with the South of Heaven songs. Because I remember buying that record the day it came out. I was fucking pissed at first because I love that record now, but at the time I was just like, like the beginning started with the intro, and it was just, I don't know. But long story short, it was a slower record, and I get it now. But I have a funny story about the South of Heaven tour that I saw. It was at the Tower Theater in Philly, like right outside of Philly. And so there was and I know you guys remember back in those days, like, Slayer fans, especially in the 80s, it was fucking brutal, and it's just
maniacs.
Like, yeah. So there was a line that was like wrapping around the corner or whatever to get into the Tower Theater, and it was just like a bunch of guys chanting Slayer, of course, and so there was these 2 poser guys that we're walking to like go towards the line. I'm just thinking, like, back in those days, first of all, you're a poser. You don't go to a fucking Slayer show.
Fucking last place you should be at.
We went to their shows to pick up the girls to hang out outside the club, to the glam shows, because no girls like Slayer back in those days, But so yeah, these guys just are walking. They got like spandex, big hair, fucking whatever, pink spandex or whatever. I mean, it was just crazy because these guys were like full on glam dudes. And all of a sudden, I just hear one guy go, "Posers, get them, kill them!" And me and my friend just started screaming, kill him, and you just saw like half the line just like charging after these two poser guys.
Oh shit!
Drop, and they're just fucking pouncing on these guys, But I think that kind of sums up that attitude back then.
Yeah,
Slayer, because there was nothing like Slayer, I mean, yeah, there was Venom and all that kind of stuff, but Slayer was just like the most extreme thing out there, and they had the riffs, they had the songwriting, they had the whole fucking thing, Tom Araya,
the whole bag, man.
That's front man, and Dave's, drumming. Dave's still my favorite drummer.
Yeah.
And Jeff and Kerry just, it was just
the dynamic duo, man.
Sick as fuck. So, and I remember even like I think I was reciting the lyrics to Crypts of Eternity when Hello Waits came out in grade school,
That's fucking awesome.
Me and my friend got sent to, the principal's office, of course, because taunting the nun, saying I was going to go to hell. So, but yeah, nothing but good memories of Slayers, but, growing up and listening to Slayer and yeah. Just amazing, you can't beat those records, man. I mean, still to this, all these death metal bands and all that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, man, nothing beats that shit.
I heard
you can't beat Hello Waits, man.
I heard someone say recently, oh, Slayer's not extreme, and I was like, almost died. I was like, are you serious? Slayer's not extreme? Where you definitely weren't around in the 80s to say something like that. Shit. Okay, Francisco, what about you? How did you get into this?
Well, for me, growing up, my buddy Ray Rivera, he was, we met like in probably like elementary school. He was always like the Iron Maiden kid, then, and then he would always be like, I don't know, a step ahead of me in like finding extreme bands or whatever. And I remember going to his house, like as an apartment, and he used to draw, like he was the artist kid that drew all the skulls and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like in 6th or 7th grade or whatever. So he liked to draw like shirts. Like he was influenced a lot by Pusshead, right? So I used to have that. This was probably like 87, probably. Yeah, I had that that Metallica shirt, Crash Course in Brain Surgery T-shirt or whatever.
Yeah,
I used to have that. I was like in 7th grade or whatever, and I had it. And he wanted to draw it, so I went to his house and took the shirt. That way he could just draw it or whatever. But when I got there, he was playing the intro. He was listening to Hello Waits. And I think I've said it before on my show, but I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's my first time hearing the intro. And I'm like, what, 7th grade? What are we, like 12, 13, whatever it is,
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, this is some scary shit, growing up like here in Texas, this is a Bible Belt. You grow up,
I know
God fearing, and parents are all God Christian people and whatnot, and that was the first time I like ever heard anything by Slayer. And I'm like, wow, it was it happened to be on the intro, and all we had was tapes. We didn't have records. We everything we bought was tapes, and so anyway, that was the first time I really ever heard him. And then that same year, my older brother was friends. He was friends with these metal guys, and I remember, I guess 87, they did the Rain and Blood tour, right? 86, 87. And I remember seeing the T-shirt, that tour shirt, and it said, "Do you want to die?" on the back. I'm like, what the fuck? This fucking band is crazy, man. I'm like, what is it? And, my brother and his friends were, I don't know, 4 or 5 years older than me or whatever. They were already like late teens, at that time. And I just that always stuck with me, that "Do you want to die?" And it said like Rain and Blood tour, 86, 87, whatever it was. I'm like, holy shit, man. This band's fucking crazy. So you know, so initially I heard them from my buddy Ray, which I heard a lot of stuff from him. Like, you know, we were at intermediate school or like middle school or whatever. And he was, you know, I heard, like I said, Slayer, what else? DRI, Merciful Fate, Venom, all that shit.
All the good ones. Yeah.
Yeah, he was that kid, right? He was that kid that fucking was like getting all the extreme shit. And you know, I was like I said, I was wearing a Metallica shirt and all that, and he was already like, you know, like what King Fowley always calls him, like training. What does he call it? Training bra thrash or whatever the fuck he calls that shit. But yeah, so he was amazing. He was a big influence on me, like early on, like it's like, you know, 12, 13 or whatever. You know, I was jamming Metallica and fuck, I can't even remember. Just shit like that. But yeah,
rash,
yeah. But I got into like the more evil stuff like that shit through him. But I like I said, I'll never forget that day hearing that intro, and I'm like, wow, what the fuck, you know?
That's quite a one to hear from your first time too with the intro. That's pretty evil.
Yeah, dude. Like I said, he would just. I remember I'd go to his house and he had like, you know, he had cassettes, but it was like he kept them like in his drawer or whatever. Instead of having like clothes or whatever, he had like cassettes in his drawer
that's
and
cool.
shit like that.
The
so
chamber,
you know,
yeah.
But yeah, exactly. So he had, like I said, he was real influential on me, and you know, we're still friends to this day, and still in, you know, we played in bands and all that shit throughout the years. So,
Cool.
But yeah, that's how I first, or whenever I first heard Slayer.
Okay, and what about you, Jeff? How'd you come across Slayer?
You know, it's really funny. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Great. Yeah. It's funny, of all the bands that I got into from that era, Slayer is one of the bands I can't quite remember how I first got exposed to them, which is so strange. I want to say I heard them a couple of times, and I was really young when like Rain and Blood came out. You know, I'm a little younger than you guys, so. Oh man, I must have been about 12 when I first heard like bits of Rain and Blood, and I thought it was really cool, but I just kind of wasn't ready for it. And then I got to be friends with my buddy Chris Hill, like in 8th and 9th grade, who was a founding member of a band that Carl and I used to be in called Diabolus back in 1990 and 91, 92. So, yep. And so I don't even remember. I feel like I heard Rain and Blood and South of Heaven basically at the same time. And then I have to admit, I liked South of Heaven better. I thought they were both great, but for different reasons. And South of Heaven was new when I heard it. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to seek this one out right away. And we had a store called Sound Warehouse. I don't know if Alex, you familiar with Sound Warehouse? I don't know if they had that up on Sound Warehouse. I don't know if they had that up on the East Coast.
Sam's wholesale place or something? Is that what
no, it's similar.
Big chain record.
Soundware. Yeah, we had those as well. Houston.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah.
So. Not that I can recall.
So, but they had the policy back then with the fucking the parental warning labels where they wouldn't sell it to you if you were under 18. And I'm barely 14 trying to buy this at the store. But they had put it on the cellophane, not on like the actual tape case. So I marched around the store browsing with the copy of the cassette of South of Heaven in my hand, and I was just desperately picking the label off with my thumbnail and managed to just kind of wrench it off. And ultimately, I don't think the kid at the counter gave a fuck. He just sold it to me anyway, but I made it easier for him by... Yeah, but I figured plausible deniability. At least he wouldn't get in trouble with his boss or whatever. So I got that home, got way into that in a hurry, and then very quickly found my way back through the reverse of the catalog. That's usually how it works. You get on the album that's specific to your era, and then you work your way back. And that was ultimately what it was for me. And like very quickly, Slayer made Anthrax and Metallica, which were the two other bands like that I was like really kind of following a lot. I didn't like Megadeth at all, but Slayer made both Metallica and the Anthrax seem really tame. And sorry,
Slayer smoked them. I mean, let's be honest.
yeah, and that was completely illustrated on the first time I saw them. I didn't get to see them until 1991 on Clash of the Titans. And Carl, did you go to that one?
I did not. The one at the Sunken Garden, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I did go to that one.
Okay.
I was hating all those bands by the time that Clash. I mean, I wouldn't even the Seasons in the Abyss. I remember my friend of mine, Frank Gamble. He bought it, and I remember just going. I was like, "Fuck this! This sucks," you know. And it wasn't until like maybe 5-6 years ago that I heard Seasons in the Abyss whole album, you know.
Yeah.
And it's actually a pretty good record. You know, there's some good songs.
I know what you're talking about, though, and that mindset back then,
you know, but
it was like it had to be fucking brutal and fucking fast as hell and just evil. And
yeah, they came out. When did that come out? Like 90, 91?
91. Or was it 90?
I mean,
okay.
You know, I have it sitting here.
90.
Like, even me, like 91, I was like, yeah, you know, I wanted the most extreme shit I could find, you know, and Slayer was already, you know.
Slayer lost her. I mean,
Slayer was like what they were making Metallica sound like compared to like, you know, the death metal bands and grinding bands. And,
I mean, it's just the way it went.
Yeah.
Once you got hit with a face full of Deicide and Morbid Angel, Seasons of the Abyss wasn't shit. That's just all there is to it.
Pretty much.
I didn't even think it was very good at the time. I was disappointed in it, but I'll quickly just add that seeing them live in '91 was really still pretty terrifying. San Antonio's ground zero for Slayer, and
it's crazy.
And you guys remember how they had the rotating lineup for Clash of the Titans? Different band went on first every night. Well, we had to sit through Alice in Chains, and it was in the middle of the summer. So, of course, the sun doesn't go down till like basically 8 o'clock at night. And it was just pounding hot and an outdoor outdoor venue. And in the middle of the summer. And Slayer came out first. Sun was still fully up, and everyone was mad, but they went crazy anyway. And it was like one of those CIA experiments where they try to see like what raising the temperature of a room does to aggression, because people were killing each other. It was the most violent Slayer show I'd ever seen. I mean, and they didn't do the thing where they sprayed the audience down with the hose or any of that stuff.
That's not happening.
Oh no. It was so brutal.
The pit made a giant dust cloud in the Sunken Gardens too.
No, that was when we went to see Iron Maiden.
Okay,
because
I didn't go, but I remember hearing a story about a dust cloud because of the pit.
It might have been because that concrete pad out in front of the stage was pretty dusty, so I'm sure it was like that. I mean, people, like I said, people were killing each other like right in front. I was like right up on the barrier, and that was the first time I'd been at a show like that on the barrier, so that was brutal too. Some guy was on meth and freaking out, and some kid who'd like he'd broken his arm, and he had like just the elbow to wrist cast, and he's just decking the meth head in the face with his cast. just insane shit like that. And I was just barely 16, and I was just like freaking out. I mean, I had a great time, but yeah, totally
awesome. So for me, I was kind of hip to it back then, because I was buying all of the Metal Forces and any underground publications I could get my hands onto back then. But being from San Antonio, we had our own Slayer. And they weren't called San Antonio. SA Slayer, but we called them Slayer, and Slayer was LA Slayer to us, and we didn't, change that. It was LA Slayer and Slayer. So when the famous Slayer versus Slayer show happened, that was technically going to be San Antonio Slayer last show anyway. And San Antonio Slayer, obviously, I loved them. That was like my favorite local band, you know. And back then, I didn't even really know the difference between local band and national band and all that. I just thought bands were bands. I didn't know. So I was like, yeah, Slayer's up there with Judas Priest. No, it went out. So anyway, they played our Slayer, you know, put on a kick-ass show. But damn, dude, when I was gonna say LA Slayer, when so Slayer came on, it was like next level. I mean, we already had gotten Show No Mercy. I'm just showing them. For
What year was that, Carl? What year did they play?
Oh,
84.
84. And Slayer was touring on Haunting the Chapel.
Right.
Yeah, their first tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And me and my friend Gilbert Lopez, my own, I don't know. Do you know Gilbert, Jeff? I don't know if I ever introduced you to him.
I met Gilbert. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually had a conversation with Tom Arroyo before the show. He was real cool. And he had that kick-ass Merciful Fate Melissa shirt.
Nice.
Hey, that's Tom Arroyo. And he sat down and talked. I have no idea. I don't even remember what we talked about. I'm sure it's metal. But he gave San Antonio Slayer their props too. But he's probably like, yeah, wait till we play. I'm sure he was thinking that in his mind because they leveled the place. There was really, it was, I think, about, if I read correctly, like almost 500 people at that show. Now that's a huge show from back then for an underground metal show in our town.
Yeah.
And it was just mayhem, total mayhem.
What was the Slayer like? Did they have any kind of stage show at that time?
They had those light inverted crosses with the lights, basically, like on the back of Show No Mercy. That's what they had. You know,
nice.
I'm trying to remember if they did the little makeup. I don't think they did.
Yeah, the eye makeup.
Yeah, I think that was all.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but they had the leather. They still had the Show No Mercy look.
So was that the only two bands? Was that the only two bands that played that day?
I think Cyrus played.
Oh,
yeah, it's on that flyer that got reprinted as the shirt. So there was, I think it was like 4 bands.
Was it? I don't remember Cyrus.
Yeah, they played here in Philly on that tour at this place called the Empire Rock Club in '84. Obviously I wasn't there, but friends of mine were there from the band Anvil Bitch from Philly, and they said there was just like 25 people there.
Are you serious?
Oh,
500 at our show.
I mean that club back in from '84 to like '87, I was predominantly like fucking glam club. That was like Cinderella's home club,
okay.
So it was just like, 84 Slayer, nobody knew who the fuck they were.
Yeah.
So, I mean, except for a couple, the old, thrashers from Philly that were there. But,
I need to backtrack a little too, because we had a zine called Unholy Book back then that came out.
Yeah.
And it pretty much pushed LA Slayer really hard too, along with San Antonio Slayer, and that was like pretty much the local scene Bible, and it was sold like at Hog Wild Records, which basically everybody went to get like underground metal back then. So I think that really helped them, get the word out for Slayer here in San Antonio. But we had like underground radio shows, Headbangers Ball with Tracy Barnes and all that. I think that was on midnights on Saturday or Friday.
The Metal Shop. It was in Philly.
Oh yeah.
Shop it was called. Yeah.
I
heard Celtic Frost on there for the first time. I think Morbid Tales just came out or whatever. And I was just like,
nice.
Yeah, this was before my time, but they were on. I think that's the tour where they were on the infamous Random Sampler show in Houston, and I think it's Jeff and. I can't remember the exact story, but they were on the radio being interviewed, and they were just, being like, fucking Slayer, just, talking shit, and I think that interview ended up being, memory serves, it ended up being pressed like on vinyl or whatever, and
cool.
Yeah,
it was a pretty like infamous thing in Houston. Like I said, I was, 84. I had no idea or whatever, but But yeah, it was on KPFT, I believe, if I remember. I mean, you guys probably. I mean, you know, guys knowing Wes, he worked on KPFT for years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was that tour when they came, and my buddy Robert, I think I told you, Carl, he saw that tour in Houston, and it was like they played at some big like warehouse or whatever. And I remember him telling me they allowed like the reason I asked who else played because they allowed like they had like a talent show, I think, of you know, whoever wins can open for Slayer or whatever. Like so, there was like a high school band that got to open for Slayer on that.
Wow.
Tour. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the band. He told me. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember who the band was, man. I wish I would have asked them, before I came on here. But yeah, it was like it was a high school band that got to open for him. And I don't know if anybody else played. I think it was just that high school band and Slayer, from what I remember him telling me.
Wow.
So our lineup was a little more stacked than the Houston lineup.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling the guys earlier about from the show. Bob Catlin tells the story. Bob Catlin was in S.A. Slayer, and he worked at Hastings at a mall here called Ingram Mall. These bands used to come and do autograph sessions or whatever they're called. And Slayer was there doing theirs, and everybody was getting along. You know, Bob and them and all them guys. And Kerry King just says, I guess we got to go meet that other asshole Slayer now. And Bob goes, well, you already met the assholes. And Kerry King's like, what? And he goes, I'm in Slayer. I'm in San Antonio Slayer. And Bob was laughing. And Jeff was laughing, apparently. And Kerry King was like, oh, don't. Put his foot in his mouth once again, So that's a funny little story about that show. But apparently they all got along. It seemed like I seen pictures from that show, and it looks like they all hung out backstage. No issues or anything. And like I said earlier, our Slayer was disbanding, so it didn't really matter about who was going to get the band name. So Haunting a Chapel is like really kick-ass, dark, evil. It's obviously more extreme than Show No Mercy. It's going next level, and then this has dropped on the world. Hell waits.
Mm-hmm.
This is like you can't really call yourself a metalhead if you don't have this one in your collection.
That's the album, really. It's Haunting the Chapel is my favorite, but Hell Awaits. Like I had a discussion with Mike from Deceased one time, and he was like, if Hell Awaits had Haunting the Chapel's production, even better.
Oh wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
That
Hell Awaits is just fucking evil. It's their darkest record. I mean, as far as full length, that would be my record right there.
Yeah, if I had to pick one, Hell Awaits. Because just the leap from Show No Mercy to Hell Awaits, and I mean, I know this might be a controversial take, but Hell Awaits to me kind of started death metal in the right direction. I know it's not death metal, but
I would agree with that. Yeah,
it's selling in the direction where we're going to death metal.
Hey, I mean, I tell you, any of us that would play death metal in the 80s, we all pretty much modeled ourselves after Slayer.
Yeah,
it's a blueprint for sure.
I mean, it's got a lot of those riffs on that album, or those tremolo kind of fucking riffs or whatever, and that's total death,
Well, look at the speed of Hell Awaits too. It just once it kicks in, it's back then, dude. That was top notch. That was like neck snapping, head banging. Like holy shit, this is
yeah. Man, I guess they started showing their like hardcore kind of influences on the vocals, especially because Tom's singing like. He's doing that whole Kurt Brett DRI shit, like on the song Hell Awaits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still sounds evil, but he's like shouting now at high speeds too.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to get in as many evil words as he can, and a little short amount of time. Which those lyrics on that album, dude, those lyrics on Hell Awaits are fucking amazing, man.
Kill Again, dude. The lyrics.
Yeah.
I think that's a totally underrated thing about Slayer during those times was those lyrics, man. I mean, I think Kerry King wrote most of them, and that dude could write fucking evil lyrics.
I give him his credit.
As good as anybody.
Evil, yeah. And also
Yeah.
the merch they were producing around that time too. It's the satanic Wehrmacht shirts and all that. Everybody had one.
Yes.
It was just so metal and it's like what everybody wanted. This is fucking.
It's funny, even some of the stuff like Live Undead. It's kind of like, if you think about it now, it's kind of corny looking, but back then it was just like, wow, that's fucking sick.
It's great.
Yeah.
The graveyard with the zombies.
Well, like I said, the shirt,
Yeah,
the Slayer, the fucking Rain and Blood tour shirt that my brother's friend had, that was like, it was evil. I was like, what the fuck? Do you want to die? What the fuck? I never seen anything like that before.
Well, what about the Altar of Sacrifice shirt with the priest?
Oh yeah,
the BC Rich.
Yeah.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah,
man.
like the stained glass one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like two BC Riches stuck in them, man. Altar.
Yeah, that's the one that dude had. But I just remember seeing the back because it was those baseball jersey kinds or whatever they were.
Yeah, it was a white one. Yeah,
with the black 3/4 sleeves or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That shit, like I said, that blew my mind as a little kid.
Slayer absolutely. Oh, go on.
Go on out.
I was just going to say, Slayer absolutely took that. I mean, they pretty much were the tip of the spear for the standard of satanic, evil, threatening music. I mean, it was so funny that the PMRC effectively overlooked them because they just weren't a big enough name at the time when those hearings were happening. But if it had been just a couple of years later, they would have been dead center in that controversy. I really believe that.
Well, when Blood came out, they did get a lot of shit over that, I remember. And that was over Angel of Death.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were getting,
label.
accused of being Nazis and all this bullshit or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing.
I do remember that.
People don't realize, if you're looking at Slayer now, it's a completely different world. They're involved in the huge booking scene, lots of money. But this is back when they were an underground band, and it was a completely, different world environment. Slayer, the fans were underground fans back then for Slayer. It's not like it is now. So that's why 80s Slayer rules. I mean, they were still touring around in a freaking.
Well, what was it? Metallica. I never would have thought they would have became as huge as they did. Because there was bands like Metallica, Slayer, Fate. It was kind of like my little secret with a couple of my friends. You know? And that was underground, and nobody else fucking. None of my other friends were more in the mainstream stuff, Motley Crue, Rat, all that kind of stuff. And I liked all the heavier shit. And, it's just funny how, because they were just like, oh, that's fucking noise. Like Metallica was noise. And
I used to hear that shit too from my, my brother's older friend. My brother was like about 4 or 5 years older than me, and his friends, not many of them like Slayer.
And then a couple of years ago, I saw them, on that final tour, or one of the final tours, and it's just crazy to see you're sit in a big 20,000 meter, fucking Slayer headline, and it's just fucking crazy, And it's even like, fast forwarding a little bit, even like, it was cool to see him there, but like Gary Holt, just seeing Gary Holt playing with Slayer, because Gary was one of my guitar heroes. Bonded by Blood came out. That was just like,
oh yeah, that's another ripper from the times.
Yeah, and it was just it's just crazy seeing Gary up there, and there's like 20,000 people or whatever. It's fucking nuts,
Yeah,
I'm sure he's loving it too, man.
I mean, I could say the same thing about Immolation, man. You guys play like these fucking. These big fests. I mean, think about it, Alex. In 1980, whatever, would you? I mean, take yourself back to that time, and now you're playing like however many people in these big fests.
I got a similar, story. What you're saying, that relates to what we were talking about as far as all these people. And I was talking. We recently toured with Carcass, so I was talking to those guys about it, and I went to see Carcass play, I think it was in New York. It was like a 2,200 seater place. It was their first show when they got back together. So I was there with one of my friends in the band, Mortician, and I said, or he said to me, I think he was like, dude, Can you imagine seeing fucking Carcass, 2,200 people? You know,
Yeah.
it's like sold out show of fucking car. I'm like, fuck no. I said it's fucking insane. Like if you really think about it,
It is.
Like, or like Immolation or whatever. But any of us are still doing this music for all these years. It's like it's just crazy how far it's grown. But it was the same thing with like Maiden and stuff like that too. You know, just Maiden was
progression, but
pretty extreme and just how far they came. It's like from this new wave British heavy metal, which was basically a kind of an underground movement, and how a band like them became as big as they did.
It's a huge band.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny to think back then to what's going on now.
Yeah,
these bands you saw in underground clubs, and now they can fill these huge arenas or
it's
festivals.
yeah, it's fucking wild.
I want to bring up
a memory. It's like the younger kids. I think it's like they probably people my age group. That have, well, I don't have older. I have a young daughter, but my friends that are around my age that have grown kids now. In their 20s, 30s, and they kind of grew up with their parents' music. And so there's this whole other generation because. I mean, if it wasn't for these young kids, none of us would have anybody to play for. We'd have like 5 people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I like seeing the young kids because the young kids are the ones that have the energy, right? They're the ones that fucking just go crazy at a show, and you see that shit, and you're like, oh fuck yeah,
cool.
it's
sure. I was one of those kids too. I remember
exactly.
See Maiden in the Power Slave tour. That was just like holy crap, man! I saw Metallica the same year. It was Ride the Lightning with Wasp and Armored Saint at the same place I saw Slayer at the Tower Theater, and that was just like holy fucking,
I saw Metallica on Ride the Lightning.
Gods on stage, and like seeing James Hetfield come out or Tom Araya or whatever,
right in front of you too. Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine. I mean, obviously, I didn't see him in '84, but my buddy Ruben, he saw them in Houston. He said there was like 20 people or whatever when Metallica was like on Ride the Lightning. I mean, you imagine that shit? Oh yeah, he said there was nobody there. They played in a place called Cardi's, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They played in San Antonio on that tour 3 nights in a row, sold out. Cameo, Metallica.
Yeah.
They played Pasadena.
It was just with Armored.
You guys know where Pasadena is.
That's what I'm saying. Oh wow.
Yeah, it was just Metallica and Armored Saint.
Wow.
Where is this, Francisco?
Oh, Pasadena? They also played. I remember him told me, Pasadena, which is a suburb of Houston or whatever. So on that tour, they played like in Houston, and then they played in Pasadena, which is just fucking weird to think about.
Yeah.
Pasadena is just a little suburb on the southeast side of Houston.
Oh wow, yeah. I saw Slayer on the Hell Waits tour here in town again at the Cameo Theater, and they had this poor local band called Metallis open. I think I told the story on your show, Francisco, about
maybe
almost everybody in the show sat down while Metallis was playing, and a lot of people like this turned their backs to the stage and were talking to each other. And the poor band, they're just trying to do their thing. They're getting booed, and everybody's yelling "Slayer, Slayer." And I remember, I don't know why this sticks out in my memory, but the singer goes, "God damn, man, I know you don't like us, but don't fucking throw gum in my hair, fuck." He was like,
"Oh,
that's great."
Yeah, man.
So they were just a like a young local band or what?
Yeah, they were just like like not glam or anything, just like. Metal, 80s metal from back there in San Antonio. Poor guys.
It didn't matter who you were. You didn't want to open for Slayer, especially back
then.
No, or you also didn't want to follow, from what I understood, because like when Slayer went out with Wasp, I have friends who I didn't see that tour. I was still too young, but I have friends who all went to see that show, and the Slayer people just gave Wasp the worst fucking time every night. Apparently that was like a really big flap. Dave Herrera from Imprecation said that like Slayer played and everybody in Houston just tore the room apart. And then
It was the same thing with Metallica with Wasp too, because it was like a year earlier,
Yeah.
85, and and it was the same thing.
Wasp-
Metallica
Wasp
played
bad-
before
bad
Wasp,
story.
and it was just like nobody gave a fuck, and that was like when Wasp was like kind of that first record, and still kind of extreme hard rock, whatever edge to it.
Yeah.
And,
Full disclosure, I love the first Wasp record,
Oh yeah, we do.
but
We do.
but I wouldn't. Yeah, with Slayer, that's a.
It's Slayer, and like even worse is Slayer.
That's a tough road. Man.
Slayer when they were playing
I
the
know
middle.
I left after Slayer at that time.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because it's funny you bring up Wasp because this year they're on tour, and I know here in Houston, you know who's playing with them? Michael Schenker. And he's just gonna fucking destroy them because I just saw a clip of Michael Schenker's band playing Hellfest or something like that.
Yeah,
fucking amazing.
Oh, really? On fire?
It's fucking amazing.
He's one of my favorites.
Whoever that guy he's got singing with him is really good too.
Yeah,
like
it's a guy that's singing with
South American guy. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. But Michael Schenker obviously is just fucking killing it, right? And his band, dude, his band is fucking amazing. I was like, man, I want to go see that shit now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into Rain and Blood. Obviously, like I think for us, we the older guys, we go at Hell Waits. I always thought Hell Waits is has a lot more atmosphere. It just has a little more evil sound to it. But Rain and Blood, I will admit, is Slayer's most unchained, aggressive, visceral album. I mean, it's brutal. And
I mean, from beginning to end, and it doesn't even seem like it's less than 30 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Just because of the shortness of it, I think that album. There's probably two records that I listened to more than anything in my life. It's probably that and Judas Priest Unleashed in the East. It's like, but like Rain of Blood is just it's over in 20 something minutes. Flip it over, fucking play it again.
Yeah, the cassette.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The cassette. That's the first. That's one of the first cassettes, if not the first, that I remember saying program repeats on both sides or whatever.
So short.
Yeah.
It's still an evil record too, but it's not.
Oh yeah. Altar Sacrifice is, again, evil ass lyrics, but there's the atmosphere is pulled back and it's full on, pedal to the metals, just aggression and speed. Crazy solos too.
Well, that's when Lombardo started getting really wild with his hands and shit.
Yeah.
Well, just the double bass on Angel of Death. I mean, fucking
That was a standard setter. I don't think I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I feel like when Lombardo did Rain and Blood, that's that absolutely set a template for everything that came after that. And then I would say again that was reset when pretty much by Pete Sandoval and Steve Ashheim from Deicide for death metal, because when those two albums came out back to back, then everything in terms of drum extremity sounded like that after again. So I feel like there's like two level ups that you could really visibly count, and Rain and Blood was like the one that everybody subscribed to get to where they were in like 1990.
And Dave pretty much wrote the book on extreme metal drumming. He's the guy that really took
that's a blueprint for sure on that.
I mean,
I play with drummers that call it the Slayer beat, that
Yeah. I mean, even it's funny when you mentioned about Pete, because it probably just came out around that time, Altars of Madness. So I went to see Dark Angel, and my friends were opening up the show for them, and I was working for them at the show at this place called the Trocadero in Philly.
Oh yeah.
So I had a conversation with Gene Hoglan backstage, and I was like, "Hey, so what do you?" Because Gene was like, there was Dave and there was Gene. Those were the two guys back in the 80s.
Right.
Holy fuck, and the drumming on Darkness Descends, And Gene Hogan was like scary too. He had the big glasses,
big guy,
hand up on the top and stuff, but Dark Angel, it was another one of those bands for me. But so I remember I had the conversation with him, and Altars just came out, and I said, "Have you heard Morbid Angel?" And he's like, "Yeah," and I was like, "What do you think of Pete?" fuck, that guy pisses me off. Back then, that's so funny, because Pete, was another level. But for me, it's like everybody talks about Pete and that kind of for a guy that plays in a super fast band. But that kind of drumming, I don't know. I don't care about it. Like Dave is just fucking brutality, and it's just like the way he plays too. And he's if good or if not better now than he was back then. And
I agree.
And he, it's like he's got this style that it's like this chaotic kind of fills and stuff that we do, and it sounds like he's about to go over the cliff, but he doesn't. Like he just kind of he hangs over a little bit and he comes back on, and nothing against what's his name, Paul Bostaph, but man, dude,
yeah,
seeing them with him. I mean,
he's under control.
To a degree with Jeff not being there, and Jeff is one of my guitar heroes without a doubt. Gary doing a good job, but without Dave there, it was just I don't know, man.
Yeah.
There's no fire. Like there's some people are just. Some people can be replaced, but some people can't, and like Dave has just got such a style that,
Dave always sounds like he was ready to fly off the rails. But
yeah.
Just,
that's what I say, off the cliff, like he's about to fucking fall.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He keeps under control. It's just so wild. It's still under control.
Yeah. Dave has feel, his
feel. That's what I'm getting at,
Yeah, he's got feel.
All the speed stuff, like somebody. Like Mick Harris, he was super fast, but he had feel too, Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I say about Dave Gray for Repulsion. He's got that his blast. You can feel every ride hit. You can feel it.
Sick drummer,
But
Dave Gray,
Slayer, Dave Lombardo. Everybody plays the beat, but nobody plays it like him. Just that simple ass beat that anybody can play.
I was like,
anybody can play that, but it's not the same. It's not the same. If Lombardo plays it, you feel like every fucking ride hit, and it's just that's his beat, And I mean, he's got more than that, obviously, but it just shows that the feeling he has.
He's an extremely hard hitter too. That's the thing that most people don't notice. He plays excessively hard. He's incredibly barbaric. And the evidence for that is like if you see him playing with any of the other bands he's stepped in with, like Suicidal Tendencies or even like the Mr. Bungle revival that they did. He takes it to that level because his X factor is his level of force, and people always forget that.
Misfits never sounded better.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of integrity in what he does, no matter who he's playing with. It's just. As a musician, it's just like, but we can't, and we got to mention Jeff Hanneman here,
Oh, of course.
There is no Slayer without Jeff Hanneman.
Yeah, I don't want to take away from anything from Carrie, and Carrie's, he's written some fantastic stuff, but let's face it, Jeff was like, his songs were the best by far, and even as a guitar player, I always leaned towards him. Like his solos for me had more feeling; they were darker and stuff like that. And he took metal music to another level. He took Priest and Maiden and Fate and stuff like that, and Venom, and just kind of created something really new. That nobody heard. And like I was saying earlier, when I getting Haunting the Chapel, like. I was like, this is, what I'm fucking looking for, it's because, it was, I grew up with hard rock in the 70s, and then hearing Maiden and Priest and Motorhead. Like Motorhead was like the fastest thing I ever heard. I remember then like Metallica and then Slayer come out, and I was like, holy crap, I mean, Hanneman was like, just his presence too. I just remember like during the South of Heaven tour when I saw them. I remember they opened up with South of Heaven. I think it was then Rain. They did either Rain of Blood or Angel of Death, and then they went into Praise of Death. But I just remember like just studying him, because he was kind of like the architect, extreme metal guitar player. Like
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
and I still think he is. A lot of people float around and stuff, but for me, Jeff was like the ultimate. And I
Yeah.
think even his attitude and everything, this kind of really came through his playing. And from what I understand about friends of mine that knew him and stuff like that, he was a pretty real guy and pretty private too, which I thought was pretty cool, and I think he just lived for writing those riffs, and I even remember the night he died. I was in France. I played the Club Jeebus, I think it was, and I remember I was walking off stage, and I saw like these people crying, like these metal girls like crying or whatever, and one of the guys was this big bouncer guy said to me, Jeff Hanneman, and I was like, what? Like fuck. And I remember like I was in Incantation at the time, and me and Kyle played we played Show No Mercy up until Hell Awaits, like every record like that, Haunting, Live and Dead, Hell Awaits, like for the next part of that tour, like
Yeah.
all day,
Oh,
what
yeah.
I mean? But that was a real fucking bummer, it's like, and I think that pretty much was probably which was like the beginning of the end of the band,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he was the heart and soul with his riffs. I mean, like you said, you look at the songs, and when you really look at who wrote what, and you look at the leads, are like, oh shit, Jeff, it's Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote all my favorite songs, from the band, and he wrote the darkest stuff too,
Yeah.
Yeah, you could tell. Go ahead, Jeff. I
was just saying,
stuff was brutal. He had like some real brutal stuff, but what didn't have the darkness like that Jeff had, in his writing.
Yeah. It's worth mentioning that I went to Hanneman's memorial service out in LA. My wife and I went out there, and they had. I'll just quickly tell the story. It was such a statement because, they had the proper memorial service with like the chairs up in front of the stage and people spoke, and it was some of Jeff's family and friends and Carrie. But then they had like a barricade, just like at a show, where because it was open, like I think they allowed like 2,000 people in at the LA Palladium. And so we're all up against the barrier watching the funeral basically. And then everybody was, cool about it. And then at the end, they had the montage where they're showing all the pictures of Jeff's life up on the screen, from him being a kid all the way up through Slayer, all the way to the end. And they were playing Fade to Black by Metallica because, of course, Slayer has no ballads. And but then right when it gets to the epic where Jeff is now in Slayer and they're showing actual Slayer photos, they started playing Raining Blood. And suddenly we just felt the crowd shift behind us because we were right up against the barricade. So the short version is there was this humongous mosh pit, probably the first mosh pit ever at a funeral. and it was so bad because it was like a full scale one. And when it cleared out, when the presentation finally stopped and everybody was starting to leave, there were people getting carried away. We saw some kid with he had the reverse foot going,
like a regular Slayer show going on.
Yes. And I was like, what a statement, what an impact. And knowing that Jeff would have thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, if I can mosh pit at his funeral, I'm sure he would.
Yeah.
Totally. Hey Jeff, didn't you create the National Day of Slayer thing, or have?
As a matter of fact, I did. I am the creator. Yeah. Did you not know that officially?
I remembered, but sometimes my memory fucking isn't quite sure. But I was like, I know Jeff has something to do with that. But you got the ball rolling on that. That's right.
I started the site. The word finally got out officially 2 years ago. Slayer, I was really awesome. Slayer actually publicly thanked me in their finale of their tour when it was National Day of Slayer. They on all their social media.
That
They
was the
actually
real
named-
lineup too, right? All the originals in the band.
No, well, no, they knew about me from the beginning. I made contact with their people after like 2 years of doing it. We had the first big year in 2006, and then we petitioned the Obama White House to declare it National Day of Slayer. We made a big public showing of that, and Slayer's people loved it. So then I got to go meet the band and in person. The original lineup, in 2010, I got to go out.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got to go out and meet them, and so they all knew my deal. So
That's really
I'm
cool, dude.
yeah, so I'm kind of auxiliary with them. I can't say I know them personally, but I know their people personally, so it's kind of cool that way. But yeah, I didn't let that out for a long time because of everything that happened, especially the first year. Alex, you remember that in Yonkers, that seminary got terribly vandalized, and
Whoops.
I was really afraid someone was going to come after me. But then I found out later that because of freedom of speech, I hadn't been involved in any of the actual activity, so it wasn't something that I could be held liable for. But they never caught those kids either. That was the cool thing. To this day, I don't think they ever caught them.
When I was a teenager and I had a spray paint bottle in my hand, Slayer was going to get written somewhere, no matter where I was. I wrote it Slayer. It was the school, the street, or the mall. Slayer was going to be Slayer.
Well, that's a sign of a good logo when anybody, even somebody like me without any artistic ability, can
write the
draw
logo
Slayer everywhere.
Yep.
All right. Well, oh, you got something to say?
No. Go on.
No, I was going to say, I don't have the vinyl of this anymore, but I do have the CD of South of Heaven. And I'm going to let you, Jeff, take the lead because this is what you told me is your favorite one so far.
It is. I know that's not considered cool, and being a lifelong Slayer fan, it's the one that reached me first. I love up to that album.
I think we're having internet problems with Jeff.
Really special.
Hey, Jeff, check your
and it's
internet.
dark and dark in a different way, just like a brooding kind of darkness. And it's kind of the, Jeff wrote all the key material on Rain and Blood, and then he wrote all the key material on South of Heaven. So if you really want to get a global picture of what's going on in Hanneman's head, I think those two albums really, really capture it. Because he went from this really ferocious, relentless model to this really brooding model. And kind of knowing the way Jeff died, he basically drank himself to death. I mean, he was a dark, he turned a lot of that on himself. And I feel like South of Heaven really was the mirror for that part of himself, which makes it so authentic. And I think the riffs are great. I think it's highly musical. I think it's the best production Slayer had of any of their albums, because no matter what source you hear it on, if it's a boombox or a PA system or a jukebox at a club or on your headphones, it sounds perfect and exactly the same every time. It is an incredibly balanced production.
Especially the drum.
So you can make all kinds of arguments for Hell Awaits and Rain and Blood, and they're very, very valid arguments. But I would just hold that South of Heaven is special in that it's different. That's all I have to say about it.
Okay. No, I think from the older guys.
Oh shit! And I can't hear your audio.
Okay. Well, I was going to say while you fix that, for the older guys, it was just that we just had Rain and Blood, and we were trying to. We just thought, keep going.
I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We hear you. We hear you, but. We hear you good.
Okay.
You hear us now? Do you hear me?
I do. Sorry about that. Yep. Sorry about that.
No, I was just basically saying we thought Rain and Blood, it was such a freaking and brutal attack. We were wanting more of that. And I think,
of course,
as young men, testosterone raging, we're just but now as I look back at South of Heaven, there's great music on there, and it's actually, like you were saying earlier, there's well-written music on there. I'm still a big fucking caveman when it comes to my metal, so I'm still going to go Hell Awaits, but I totally appreciate and understand what they were trying to accomplish with South to
Yeah,
Heaven.
yeah.
Yeah.
I read also that Jeff said he wrote South of Heaven, that song, back in '84. He had that.
Mm-hmm.
But
That
he
I didn't
just
know.
couldn't use it because it just didn't fit in. And they, had a discussion before that record, like, we're going to do something doomy and dark, total opposite of Rain and Blood. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Carl. It's like the same thing. I wanted that. I expected that. I heard that intro, and I thought it was just going to like bam, and just like boom,
Fly
just like,
into it. Yeah.
and it didn't, until like Ghosts of War kind of, but yeah, it took a little bit, but over time, I really, really got into that record. And yeah, Jeff, I have to agree about the production on that. The production, I love the production of South of Heaven. I think it's phenomenal, especially the drums. And I think that's like my favorite drum album by Dave, actually.
Yes, that's a big thing. I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs now in our repertoire is Silent Scream.
Yeah.
One of my favorite. That's a great riff, and the fucking drumming. God.
Yeah. I just remember like cruising around my buddy's Trans Am, like when that record came out, and like he would blare that fucking shit. It was like that and Leprosy over and over again. Leprosy,
nice.
In
the Trans Am.
But like I was just like it was just so in your face, like the bass drums and all that stuff, driving down the street, in a Trans Am Slayer.
Like that's metal.
Yeah.
And your thoughts, Francisco,
on South of Heaven?
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. Jeff and I are around the same age, and I don't like it all, but I do like it. Like songs like hell, Alex mentioned Ghost of War. That's one of my favorite songs on that one. Read Between the Lies is a good damn song on there. Some of the faster ones like Silent Scream and all that. I mean, I like the song South of Heaven a lot. I mean, I like the album. I like the album. I like the album cover. I always thought the album cover was cool.
The album cover
with
is
the big
great.
skull and but
that shirt is that you're wearing that, right? South of Heaven.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I like the album. I could completely understand why somebody that was into Slayer in 84, 83 or whatever, why they think, this album's, whatever, because you were already listening. Just like example with me, like Carcass, when they put out their third album, I'm like, what is this shit?
Yeah. I mean, Slayer didn't do anything like that.
Well, I wanted Symphonies of Sickness. I wanted at least Symphonies of Sickness again, right? I mean, I get that, so I can understand that, and that's a lot of something kids just can't comprehend. How do you not like this album? How do you not like South of Heaven? How do you not like whatever? It's just
like that time period. It was like the time period where all my favorite bands were like failing me miserably, like
that's true.
And Destruction, like Destruction did Release from Agony, Creator did Terrible Certainty, and I was just like, what the fuck? Sepultura did like probably Schizophrenia or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck, man? Even like I remember Death Leprosy. I went down, bought that record the day it came out. So excited. Me and my buddy go put the vinyl on. We're sitting there, and I'm just like, man, this is fucking boring as fuck.
Yes, thank you.
And no offense, like obviously very talented. What Chuck Shoulder went on to do with Death and all, but man. I know a lot of people are like Spiritual Healing, they lost me. It's like, no, Leprosy, they lost me,
Yeah.
Not that the songs might have had maybe more fire if Chris Reifert was playing drums or whatever. I don't know. But I was just like really, so like South of Heaven and, like I said, Creator, all these bands are like putting out, like 87, 88. And it was just like, man, like what fucking happened, man? Even like Possessed, they broke up. And I do like Eyes of Horror, but I guarantee if they did another record, it would have been fucking horrible. There's
the trajectory was going up.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that
in the U.S. Like they're all getting influenced by that kind of stuff. So that's why death metal became what it was, because we were a reaction to you know, all that great thrash that was just kind of going down the tubes, you know. It lost its edge, you know, and we were there to kind of carry the flame of
that underground flame.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, most people should know this, but if you don't, for some reason, Alex was a founding member of Agoraphobia, one of the big East Coast death metal bands that blew up in the underground death metal scene. So, metal Alex, that's fucking awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. It also comes with youth too. You know, it's like I'm not the hardcore elitist that I was back then. I don't really give a shit. You know what I mean? It's just like it doesn't. People like talk about certain bands they hate. I'm like, whatever. I don't like them either. Who cares? You know? It's just,
yeah. I mean, but yeah.
But back then, you know, there was a elitist fucking attitude. You know, and it was our scene. You know, it was like we hated everybody. You know, like we had our little circle, and we were just like, man, they're gay or whatever. That terminology will be taken completely wrong. Doesn't mean that
I'm still like that.
It equals flame on my channel. That's all.
Well, but I mean, like for somebody like me, my time was like when your bands were like, you know, new, right? So that's how I am with like the way you guys are with like you said, Alex, with like Creator and all that shit, you know, like the earlier, like, you know, like Morbid Angel, you know, whatever else. I mean, it was like once they got into like 1991, it was like, all right, and I was young as fuck already, but I was already had that fucking attitude, like this shit's fucking weak or whatever, you know what I mean? It didn't have that same like feeling and the same
the attitude, you know.
It was there. It was just and like by 92, I was like, man, fuck all this shit. I was like 17 years old, you know, and I'm like, you know, what are these bands doing? They're all fucking getting weak and selling out or whatever. You know how you are when you're you're a teenager, and it's like I don't want to hear any of this shit. I did find this. I can't remember. I don't know what year this is from, but it does have the 4 original guys. So I thought I'd share it. You know, this old Slayer poster or whatever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So.
Hey Jeff, don't you have like practice room full of like, or used to, of all the vintage Slayer posters?
Oh yeah, let me show you. They're right behind me.
Yeah. I'm seeing that somewhere. Let's take a look.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's
Rain and Blood, and then the classic.
I love that one so much.
Yeah, Carrie looks so black metal right there. I don't know if you can see that, but and then this one you could get it at Hastings, places like that.
I had that one too.
Yeah, I actually got those on. I had one of those back when, and then lost it, you know, in the transition to college or whatever, and then I bought that with the other 2 from some guy on eBay for like $35 for all 3. I was just like, holy shit!
Wow.
So, yeah.
You won the lotto that day, dude.
Yes,
wow.
And they're in great condition. I put them, you know, I got them framed. You know, just went to Michael's and bought frames for them, and they're perfect. So, yeah.
I've been selling like my vinyl, you know, lately, and I forgot how many Slayer. I think I sold. No, I don't know. Hell awaits, but before I sell them, I'll listen to them to make sure they still sound good and all that, and they're in good shape. But man, if you're gonna listen to Hell Awaits, listen to the original vinyl version, because I was like, man, I don't know if I should sell this fucking thing because it just sounds so fucking good.
Yeah,
like the original vinyl. It's just like, dude,
I'm trying to get back a lot of my old vinyl that sort of got thrown out, I should say. But
mine's dwindling down.
But yeah, Hell Awaits, dude, on vinyl. I mean, come on, any of those records, you got to listen to them on vinyl.
Yeah. But I hadn't played vinyl. So. Yeah, I hadn't played the vinyl in years, and I'm like, it's like, all right, I got to listen to it because I'm going to sell it. And I was like, fuck, this guy's like, oh yeah, I'll buy it from you. I was like, all right, let me listen to it. It's like, fuck, I didn't want to tell him, no, I'm not going to sell it anymore. You know what I mean?
You know what? I'm going to have to compare now because I have the original and I had the reissue. I think it's remastered.
I mean, it sounds fucking. To me, I was like, wow. It's just everything just sounded like just grimier and just that fucking Hell Awaits sound. It's just something about it was just like, man, I don't want to sell this shit, but I do. I'll listen to my remastered CD version or whatever,
Well, let's round it out here with. I mean, I know it wasn't technically put out in the 80s, but this is to me the last of the great era Seasons in the Abyss. Anybody have thoughts on that one?
I hated it at first.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't hear the actually it was two records that came out probably the same time, was that and Painkiller. And both those albums I didn't hear until a couple of years ago. And I was done with Priest after Defenders of the Faith, and it's like Slayer I was kind of done after South of Heaven, But I think Seasons of Abyss got some really good songs on there. I mean, it's like I think they were focused on just kind of writing a little bit more like kind of catchier kind of stuff or whatever. And but this like, War Ensemble's a fucking ripping song. Seasons in the Abyss are fucking great songs. Dark.
That's a really cool song.
See, that song's really grown on me over the years, and when Jeff goes into his solo on that song, it's a pretty much amazing solo. It adds so much to the song, what he does to it.
The title track.
Yeah. Jeff's solo in Seasons of the Abyss. He's just doing some
that one feels like it could have been on South of Heaven, like it was almost like a holdover.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Well, I mean, I didn't really that like tonight. I was Mr. fucking extreme teenager, and I remember hearing it, but like after like years later, I was like, well, fuck, let me buy the CD because I was like, you getting like Slayer kicks or whatever. I was like, well, let me listen to this, and it's got some good songs on. Obviously, the vocals is even more like singing kind of on that one.
He's really going into the trying to sing zone on that record.
But War Ensemble is a good song. There's another one that's actually kind of almost Rain and Blood kind of speed. I think it's Born of Fire, maybe.
Born of Fire. That's it.
Yeah, that's a ripper.
Yeah, and everything else is kind of like. I don't know, campfire shit or something like sing along shit. I don't know. It's just
I mean, I'm not the other albums. I don't really, I think the first record that I bought after South of Heaven was Christ Illusion because Dave came.
Yeah.
So I bought that, and it's got some good songs on it, but I don't think they ever sold out. They just
I wouldn't say sold out.
Doing their thing, and they're just part of that journey or whatever, and I don't know. People can accuse me of the same things or whatever, like, oh, it's not like this or whatever, but it's never going to be that because when you're young, it's just a different thing. You're doing things for the first time, and and over time you kind of figure how to do things. I think it's like when you don't know what you're doing, that sometimes is like the most special, because
because you're going with it. You're not really worried about playing it right or in key or something like that.
Well, I mean, I think everybody was trying to sound good. We were trying to play good. It's like everybody talks about like Hellhammer or whatever, and it's just like, oh, it's so raw, whatever. It's like, well, they were trying to play their instruments good. They just didn't know how back then.
Right.
That's why it's so sloppy.
They weren't intentionally trying to be like not good.
It's like Venom. I don't know, man. Like Venom, all super tight and all. Like listen to that shit now, and
it would
not have the same effect on me. I love it all fucking sloppy. Like Sepultura, more like my drummer in Immolation. Like he's not into the early Sepultura stuff, and me, Bob and Ross, like we're like fuck the other stuff, more Divisions, dude. That's where it's at, So like we covered that song with Max singing actually, and
I think I remember hearing that.
Yeah, so we did that, and we did it live in the studio pretty much, and so like he was just kind of like, oh, this album is so sloppy, and this and that, It's like, yeah, you don't get it. You know what I mean? You don't get the attitude of things back then. You know, listen to the first 2 Sodom records or whatever. And it's just like, it's all over.
Yeah.
It's
And
fun.
still,
yeah.
and they're still their 2 best records in my book.
Yeah. First record, particularly, you know,
Yeah.
Evil. That's my favorite, you know.
It's great
That's
stuff.
that's black metal. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Actually, speaking of, it's a little off subject. I remember me and you, Carl, had this discussion. Like Repulsion. Repulsion's a fucking death metal band. What is all this?
Oh yeah.
That I know these grindcore kids are trying to take our fucking Repulsion from
Nobody
us.
called them
That's
grindcore back
death.
then. You know?
Yeah, it's death metal, and it was labeled death metal when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Death was
The reason is because they influenced like, you know, they influenced Napalm Death, and they kind of got put in that same category, you know.
Yeah.
So,
well, I remember reading somewhere that Dave Grabe, they were telling him to play the
Slayer
beat, and he couldn't. That's how he came up with a blast beat, trying to make the Slayer beat. They're like,
wow,
this is fucking cool. So they were just like, let's do that, you know.
Well, that's like with Igor on Morbid Visions. You know, Igor could hardly play his drums, you know, but he did that gallopy kind of thing. And Neil, the original Immo drummer, Neil's started doing that like Craig did it after.
Oh shit!
I did not know that. That's awesome.
That was a direct thing. Like, oh, I'm going to do the Igor beat, you know.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So that's where that came from. So it's funny how the Dave Grape thing. That's interesting. You know, it's like
I remember reading that when they're interviews.
It's when you don't know what you're doing. You know, you come up with something cool.
He actually created something new.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm going to have to tell Igor the next time I see him that story. I'm sure he'll be.
Yeah, awesome.
You guys want to hear something kind of?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say something kind of funny, just as a PS about Slayer, is that we were just saying how they never sold out, but they did make a couple of missteps, Diabolus and Musica being the biggest one. And the thing that's hysterical about that album is that it's a well-kept secret that Jeff wrote almost all of it, like almost everything on that fucking album. And Carrie, yes. And Carrie gets all the blame because Carrie was like Mr. Embracing. He's like Mr. New Metal at that time. Yeah. He was really trying to embrace it. And Jeff never made any kind of overture. And he basically just got, apparently, I read in an interview, he goes, fuck it. If this is the album you guys want, I'll just fucking write it. Here you go. And he just did it. And that's funny. And he never takes any mud from that at all, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. I remember hearing that. You Carl, you remember John Litchko, right? John.
That sounds familiar.
He played, his original band's Necrosion,
Necrosion, yeah.
Bloodstorm for a little bit too.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Like a huge, Slayer fan, and he bought that record. And I remember, because I would his house was like my, drinking hotel or whatever. So, me and him would just get fucked up and listen to Venom records and stuff like that. But I remember him buying that. He was like, oh, I'm going to go out and get it. Check it out. This is pre-internet still, it's like, and I remember putting it on. I'm like, man, I thought the other shit was bad. This is fucking horrible. I can't even remember what it sounds like because I haven't heard it since then. But yeah, Jeff, it's funny you say that. It's like, the guy who wrote the best shit, he wrote like the worst record.
I could name one Slayer song like after that Seasons in Abyss album. It just totally lost me. And I've never heard anything from that album y'all are talking about. Because I don't want to, obviously I have no interest in hearing it, but supposedly it's is it down-tuned or something? Or
yeah, it's new metal.
Is it really? Oh wow.
I mean, they still do a couple of things, Slayery, but it's really Slayer trying to be new metal, like mixing their styles.
No shit. Wow.
I mean, there's not like whiny vocals or anything, but you'll hear it. There's a lot of
no.
Oh my god, I'm glad I never heard it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I've never heard that. Wow.
That's funny that Carrie gets the blame. Hey, remember when Kerry King was going to join Pantera way back in the day? Anybody remember that story?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
damn, y'all are just ruining Slayer for me, even like big time right now. I had no idea about any of this shit.
What I heard too, he wanted to join Possessed too at some point. You know?
Oh, really? I knew the
Yeah.
Megadeth one, but
Yeah, the
not
Megadeth
Yeah,
thing,
he was in Megadeth for like a few months or whatever.
Oh yeah, he was effectively a founding member of Megadeth.
I don't know if he's a
he was in
founding
there.
member. He just went
He
out
was in
and
there
did
pretty early, yeah.
Hmm.
yeah, 84. You know.
But the Possessed one, I did not know. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know how true it is, but I remember hearing that back in the 80s, actually, you know, that he looked to the Possessed guys like, oh, you know, so who knows, you know.
Maybe he saw a new mill ticket.
I mean,
coming.
there's a lot of drunk talk back in those days too, you know. It's like,
True.
Yeah.
No, but
Everyone's at a party.
Guys, we're gonna play with you guys, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
What is the first Slayer song that pops in your head when you think Slayer?
Praise of Death. Well, Praise of Death for me. I love Praise of Death.
And Kerry wrote most of that song. So
Did he?
Yeah.
Wow. See, you never know.
For some reason. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carl. Go ahead.
I like that part in Praise of Death where it's just raging and then it stops with all the feedback.
Oh yeah, the whammy bar, like it sounded like, I don't know, some like dark eerie fog or something coming in or whatever. Like that's that whammy bar thing. And they were the first to do that shit. Like nobody did leads like that. It was just, I know a lot of guys were like, that's not right, that's not fucking blah blah blah, whatever. That's
I don't care. It sounds great.
You know, it's like the feeling. That's what's important. And it was chaotic. Morbid Angel took the same, you know, thing, Trey and Richard with their solos or whatever. But that comes from Slayer, you know. It's like nobody solos like that. It was evil. The solos were evil like the riffs, you know.
Well, yeah, it's weird because on Show No Mercy, they actually had badass melodic solos on that album.
They were Judas Priesting on Show No Mercy.
And then they went to those like Total Wild solos, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just.
But by the time they did Haunting the Chapel, it was like full on.
The transition had happened.
Now, you know.
Yeah, but that's like 83 to 84. That's fucking wild, man. How they made that jump like that.
Dramatic jump.
If you didn't know any better, you would think it was two different bands.
You're true. That's true.
Show No Mercy fucking rules. I mean, that's
that's the one.
I mean, rules, man.
And that's why I brought that up because I don't know if we even talked about it that much, but Black Magic is that song that I always think of because that's that riff that everybody always tried to play, like you know, it's just like that's the first thing. Like even to this day, if I'm like playing a show somewhere, like, you know, you're sound checking, it's just something about that. That was like, it seemed like that was the song that was like the first hit, maybe. I don't know. You know,
maybe for that album, I would go far as saying that. Yeah, it was pretty popular.
Yeah, that and Die by the Sword.
When they jump into the power chords into Black Magic, it's just so heavy and epic.
But my all-time favorite song on that one is Cryonics, dude. That song is fucking amazing, man. The fucking the twin guitar stuff, and it's just so bad.
What do you guys remember? I know Carl probably remembers getting the Ultimate Revenge on VHS when it first came out.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, dude! Like that fucking video. I mean, it got ruined like in the first year. It was just like over and over again.
Played.
And that video, absolutely, for me, that video captures what thrash metal is all about. You know, like so you got Slayer on there, then you got Paul Balfe, who was probably the most metal guy ever. You know, and it's like, you know, this the whole attitude of that video from that show. You know, it's like, I don't know, and it was just mind blowing. You know, just seeing the visuals, because back in those days, nobody had videos, and you didn't see Slayer on MTV. You know, it's like see them like, you know.
That was a big deal when it was released. I mean, it was highly anticipated.
When did that come out? Because I mean, I saw it like in the, like, I don't know, I guess it would have been 88, 89 or
late 85, early 86, maybe.
Okay, yeah. I didn't see it when it came out.
It was 85. It was 85.
85. Yeah,
Well, the
that-
shows, the shows were in '85, right?
but I think the video came out around then too.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, and Slayer was like super on fire. I mean,
Yeah.
it was awesome they got that era captured. So like, since we're talking 80s Slayer, anyone watching this who's for some reason's never seen 80s Slayer, look up the Ultimate Revenge Slayer, and you'll know what we're talking about after seeing that performance, like why it's so special.
Their Dynamo show of that year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's on the
Yeah.
internet too. That's a ripper, man.
That was the
Fucking-
first European show I think ever. Was that?
It was.
Oh,
It was.
they laid
Dude,
waste.
Lombardo is just fucking.
Slayer and UFO. You know,
Was that the
Wow.
lineup?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
or UFO. I think I saw.
I mean,
it talking about. He's like, I was so nervous. I was just like, playing.
Oh, yeah.
UFO,
I saw that.
You know? Like it was like that was like their biggest moment. It was like, playing that show at the Dynamo.
Yeah. Juanis from Pentacle was at that show, and he said that was like a huge turning point for like.
Wow.
He said that was a humongous turning point for. Yeah, he's just the greatest. But he said that was a massive turning point for just European, the European metal movement was the Dynamo Slayer show. He said, especially in the Netherlands, he said that changed everything. He's like, none of the bands that from the Netherlands, the death metal bands that came later and all that. He's like, none of that would have happened.
Yeah.
So it's also worth mentioning, I'm going to call this out to people who might be looking at this. Also on YouTube, look up Slayer at Blondie's in Detroit. That is handheld footage. The dude is going between the audience and the stage, and it's like you're fucking there. It is unreal.
I saw that video. It's like on Jeff's side of the stage. Is that one?
Yes. Yeah.
It's fucking phenomenal. It's like even I think it was pre-Kate Tremolo he had on his Les Paul. I think it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
He didn't even have the tremolo yet. But yeah, that fucking video. I was like, and I saw that like a couple of years ago because I used to tape trade with the guy that actually used to film all this guy named Ron Holt. He used to do video trading in the 80s or whatever.
Wow.
And I never saw that because I had a bunch of Slayer bootlegs back in the day, and I never saw that until a few years ago. I was like, holy crap, this is amazing because it's such good footage,
Yeah.
From that.
I think it was discovered recently and got uploaded straight to YouTube.
Yeah. Well, that's why I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, you gotta check it out, Francisco.
And I think if I remember correctly, doesn't he like somebody breaks a string? Carrie breaks a string.
I think it is Carrie.
Oh yeah, and they
something like that, or
Tom, I think, right?
I don't know. I think Carrie broke a string. I don't know. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's like at the end of the show or something, and it's just like Jeff and Carrie on bass or something.
Yeah, I think you're right. I am familiar. I am familiar with that one. I think you mentioned that, but I think the UFO one was Heavy Sound or something like that. Heavy Sound Festival.
Maybe that was it. The first show they did then.
Yeah.
Dynamo then maybe.
It was like outdoor. It was an outdoor. I think that one's on YouTube too. They're like playing outdoor.
Oh, that's the picture
during the day.
Yeah, that one's a ripper too.
The picture from the back of Rain and Blood, where it's the four of them with the beer. That's from the backstage of that. The first time they ever played in Europe.
I know that.
That's cool.
I remember reading when they were saying when they had landed, they had to drive themselves to these shows.
Yep.
Can you imagine being that age and just landing and it was an adventure.
He was like
Europe.
He was a little kid, he was like my age or whatever, like 14 or something like that,
And then they go play that killer show, man. The glory of metal right there. Well, I think we pretty much covered everything. Any last words and plug anything you guys are doing? We'll start with you, Alex.
Well, I don't know what the world metal will be without Slayer. First of all, what am I doing? So
yeah, plug anything you're going to be coming up, touring. I don't know.
Do got a bunch of shit coming up. I just can't say because it hasn't been announced yet. Maybe The only thing that has been announced is Immolation. We're playing London, I think, in like a couple weeks, in a month or something like that. We're
Oh,
going
cool.
there. It's like us and Autopsy and Tom Warner, Hanneman, Triumphant Death, and stuff like that. So that'll be cool. And we got a bunch of shit, like I said, but it just hasn't been announced yet. So
all right,
we're gonna get busy again.
awesome. Jeff, what's going on with you, or any last words on Slayer?
Oh well, Slayer's apex metal. That's all there is to it. I'd like to encourage everybody to keep celebrating the National Day of Slayer every June 6th, just because it exists for that purpose. I mean, it just, to me, it proves just kind of what an overarching and important band they really are, that I managed to actually get that stuck on the record books for them. So anyway, keep that alive. Hail Slayer, hail Hanneman. Imprecations. Imprecations playing this. I don't know when you're putting this up. Imprecations playing this Saturday.
Probably late tonight, so it'll be out.
Okay.
Before.
I might be there. I might be there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's going to be Imprecation and Trenchant Disgust playing some fucking place I've never heard of, because that's what happens when you play Houston. But that'll be fun. And then Trenchant is playing the Mass Destruction Fest in November in Atlanta with bunch of awesome bands like Mystifier and Durketta and Bulldozer. It's going to be a good one. So if you're planning to go, we'll see you there. That'll be great.
Okay, and Francisco, what's going on? Any last words on Slayer?
Yeah, dude. I mean, Slayer's the band that that you put fucking in front of, right? Fucking Slayer. You know? You can't do that for many other bands. It just doesn't work. I mean, Hanneman, King, Lombardo, and Tom Araya. I mean, those dudes. I'm glad they got together way back when and started that band, because they changed everything. I mean, you have a Slayer beat like we talked about. You have Slayer riffs. Everybody's still right. Hey, let's fucking throw a Slayer riff in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, their influence is still, can be seen or heard, to this day. And it was, it's just Slayer, man. What do you want? I mean, 80's Slayer, I'll say,
Yeah.
But is what is cool. Is my stuff, and everybody else is here, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, as far as stuff I got going, I mean, I got some new stuff that I'm working on with some friends. It's just like, stuff that's influenced.
I heard it's stuff that it's awesome.
It's stuff that's influenced by Repulsion, like Terrorizer, Napalm Death, and like the early shit. You know what I mean? The stuff that I like, and we're supposed to be recording, and
cool.
We're gonna go on tour with Immolation. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, you didn't know, Alex? We're all gonna go on tour with your band.
Yeah, we're gonna go on tour. But no, this has been cool. This has been cool. I'm glad, Carl. I'm glad you're doing this. Everybody watched the movie videos that Carl and I did. They're fucking cool.
That's fun.
Yeah,
doing more of those, man.
Nice.
Yeah, I need to do those. So,
and Francisco, what's the name of the new band? So everybody knows.
Oh, it's ETD. I like initials. I've had a band called HRA, but ETD, it's just Eat the Decay. It's total carcass. Hey, look, Reputrefaction is like top 5 album of all time for me, Right. And so I got that from a lyric, but ETD is just easier to say and all that. So, but yeah, we'll be recording stuff starting next month sometime, and yeah, it's fun, dude. It's good to be creating noise. Is my favorite thing to do, So, and I'm glad you're doing this shit now too. So it's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl.
Any news on jamming out all badass? We're gonna.
Not really. I just kind of slowed down because that was one of those things where I was like, well, I'm not really doing anything with a band, so I'm gonna start doing something else.
I got you.
But yeah, I'll be doing more. But I just kind of slowed down on that because I want to, write stuff and all that shit.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
But you can still watch all the videos. Alex has been on there. You've been on there, so.
Yeah, I'll link it in the video description. Yeah, he has Francisco. No one knows has a great YouTube channel called Jamming Out All Badass. And it reviews all
Yeah.
type of deaf, black, grind, what all the good stuff. No cheese on
Nice.
there. All right. When obviously, I love Slayer. I've seen him since I was a teenager, haunting the chapel to the last show here. I didn't go to every show in between for whatever reasons, but
Poser.
I am a poser. I'm sorry. But yeah, man, our scene doesn't exist without Slayer. No death metal, no black metal, no thrash metal, no nothing. Slayer is the blueprint in my eyes for what goes on nowadays, and
Yeah.
that's my opinion. And all right, guys, that's it. We are done. So, Edel, we
Right
want to
on.
end.
On.
Slayer.